In 2015, the finals was between the Cleveland Cavaliers and the Golden State Warriors. Going back 1 year before that, Cleveland didn't have LeBron James, the team had a losing record and weren't in the playoffs at all. That same year, Golden State was in the playoffs but failed to pass the first round. Both teams saw tremendous improvement over a single year. On Golden State's end, they got a new head coach, their star player improved to MVP status, and the rest of the group improved as well. On Cleveland's end, the change was a little less subtle. LeBron James returned to play in his hometown after a controversial but successful 4-year absence. In these 4 years, Cleveland was bad. So bad that they had the #1 draft pick 3 of the 4 years, which brought Kyrie Irving to the team and gave them something valuable in which they could trade for Kevin Love. And just like that, Cleveland had a powerful big 3 that were championship contenders. Cleveland improved their season wins by 20 and Golden State by 18. A finals matchup that would have been impossible 1 year ago was now a reality. The road to the finals wasn't too difficult for either team. Cleveland lost 2 games in total and Golden State lost 3. The most significant part of the early rounds was the fact that Cleveland lost Kevin Love to injury in the first round when his shoulder got hurt. They had a little trouble without him in the second round against the Bulls, which is where their only losses occurred. The next round was a sweep against what was the strongest Atlanta Hawks team in recent times. Golden State lost a couple games against the Grizzlies and one against the Rockets, but they were never in real danger of not advancing at any point. The finals were set, and both teams had high championship potential. Golden State had this year's MVP, but Cleveland had a 4-time MVP themselves. Golden State had experience playing together, but no experience in the finals. Cleveland had no experience playing together, but had one of the best and most experienced finals players of all time, having been there the last 4 years. Going in, there was no clear favorite. For Cleveland versus Golden State, Part 1. Game 1 was a nail-biter. It was tied after the first 48 minutes and forced into overtime. It may have been one of the worst overtimes imaginable for Cleveland. They not only lost the game, they lost the second third of their big 3. Kyrie had a knee issue that had been bothering him earlier in the playoffs. Here it was further injured and he was forced to miss the rest of the series. Cleveland was now 0-1 and without 2 key players. Everything now rested on LeBron's shoulders. He's definitely the player you would want in this position, but the situation is probably too great for anyone to overcome. Game 2 went into overtime as well. LeBron was now practically the whole team and played 50 minutes. In the game he had 39 points, 16 rebounds, and 11 assists. And his team won by 2 points. The series was tied. In Game 3, LeBron scored 40 points while resting only 2 minutes. He came 2 assists short of another triple-double. He helped his team gain an early lead and held on to it the entire game. Cleveland took Game 3 and took the lead in the series. These 2 victories are 2 of the greatest finals performances by any single player. The next game was a disaster for Cleveland and just what Golden State needed. Golden State won it by over 20 points and tied the series. LeBron again came 2 assists short of a triple-double, but it wasn't a Superman-like performance, and without one of those, the team really didn't have a chance. In Game 5, LeBron went back to being Superman, scoring 40 points, 14 rebounds, and 11 assists. This is where everyone could see that it just wasn't going to happen this year for Cleveland. Curry had 37 points, including 7 threes, and was plus 24 in the plus and minus column. LeBron did just about everything he could do, but still came up short. And the game wasn't even that close. He was without any players that could help him in a big way and was up against the reigning MVP with a great team behind him. There were a couple Cleveland players that made themselves known in the series, but they just couldn't perform at a high enough level. In Game 6, LeBron played 47 minutes and put up 32 points, 11 rebounds, and 9 assists. But it was over. Golden State took the game and the series. If Cleveland wasn't injured, there's no telling how the series would have gone, but since they were injured, they never really had a chance. Golden State still completed the task of stopping one of the best players of all time in some of the best games of his life. The championship wasn't exactly handed to them, but it wasn't exactly the most difficult series for them either. Nevertheless, Golden State took the first of the 3 finals matchups. Fast forward to the next season. Believe it or not, both teams were even better. Cleveland's players were all back in the lineup for most of the season, and they had a year of experience together. They improved their season record by a few wins and were clear favorites to be in the finals. LeBron had been there for the past 5 years, and there was nothing to suggest he wouldn't be there again. Golden State had improved as well. They went from being a 67-win team and possessing the MVP to being a 73-win team and possessing the unanimous MVP, both of which have never been done before. Many people at the time were saying this was the best team of all time. However, in the playoffs they had some unexpected troubles. Curry had ankle and knee issues in the early rounds that caused them to miss some games. The team lost 1 game in each of the first 2 rounds. But the real trouble came in the conference finals against the Thunder. Remember, the Thunder still had this guy, so it's a little different from the Thunder we've become familiar with. That guy, teamed up with this guy, proved to be a high-scoring pair in the series, as did Steph and Klay. Steph was back for every game of the series and averaged 28 points. At one point, Golden State found themselves down 3-1, but were able to win the next 3 games and advance to the finals. On the other side of the country, Cleveland had no real troubles making it to the finals. The only 2 games they lost were against the Raptors in the conference finals, but more importantly, they still had all the key players on the roster and ready to play. Now we have Cleveland versus Golden State, Part 2. Remember how important this series is to both teams. For Golden State, it was their chance to beat a healthy Cleveland team. After last year's victory, there was a lot of doubts in everyone's minds on whether or not they would have beaten the Cleveland team had they all been healthy. Well, now they had the opportunity to earn a championship more properly, and put those criticisms to rest. They were also facing a large group of people saying that 73 season wins were all meaningless if there's no championship attached. The record they had beaten was 72 wins set by the Bulls in 1996, a year in which they won the championship. If Golden State could win this series, it would be hard to argue against them being one of the greatest teams of all time. On Cleveland's end, the championship was just as important. It was their chance to see if they could beat Golden State when they're all healthy. It also had a revenge aspect to it, their chance to beat the team that beat them last year. It would also be the first championship for Kyrie and Love, along with many other members of the team. But this championship was much more important to one individual than any other player out there. When LeBron left Cleveland in 2010, the city turned on him. The Cavaliers had never won the title, nor had any Cleveland sports team since 1964, and LeBron was just about their best chance at doing it. When he left, the city felt betrayed. During these 4 years, LeBron brought championships to Miami, while Cleveland sat there with one of the worst teams. But LeBron came back, something that most people, including myself, thought would never happen, and the city accepted him. This series was years in the making. It was his opportunity to bring the title to Cleveland, practically the only thing in his career he had yet to accomplish. For LeBron, this series meant everything. In Game 1, the big 3 for Cleveland all had solid games, but it was going to take a little more than just a solid game to beat Golden State. Golden State won it in a team effort, and their team's leading scorer was Shaun Livingston, off the bench. In Game 2, things went well for Golden State when they won by 33 points. None of their players were having great individual performances, but it seemed like they didn't even need them. Their chemistry together was just that good. It was beginning to seem like Cleveland didn't even have a chance. LeBron had a solid game again, but the team failed to find scoring. LeBron led everyone on his team with 19, Kyrie had 10, and Love had 5. They weren't going to win a game in the finals with their big 3 combining for 34. Kevin Love was inactive for Game 3. It was appearing that he wasn't making the impact on the finals that the city of Cleveland had hoped. But in this game, Cleveland found their scoring. They scored 43 more points than the previous game, with LeBron and Kyrie both scoring 30+ points. And they won the game by 30. It felt like a possible turning point in the series. Remember, this was a must-win game for Cleveland. Had they lost, they would have been down 3-0, something that no team has ever come back from. Game 4 was the closest of the series so far. Golden State was down at halftime, but outscored Cleveland by 16 points in the second half to take the game. This was a game where the fans got to see some high-level basketball from the team leaders. LeBron was again 1 assist short from a triple-double, and Steph Curry scored 38 points, 21 of which was from the three-point line. Golden State now held a 3-1 lead, but we know 3-1 doesn't mean it's all over, as exemplified by Golden State in the round just before this. Things weren't looking good, but Cleveland and their fans still had hope. Game 5 was another must-win game for Cleveland. And that's exactly what they did. Klay Thompson led all Golden State players with 37, but Cleveland had 2 players above that. LeBron and Kyrie scored 41 each, and Kevin Love, who had been disappointing in this series to this point, broke out of his shell when he put up 2 points on 1 for 3 shooting. Game 6 was another must-win game for Cleveland, but at least this time it was on their home court. LeBron had another 41-point performance and shot almost 60%. Curry had 30 points, but it wasn't enough. Cleveland jumped out to a 20-point lead after the first quarter, and Golden State was never able to recover. Game 7 was the 4th must-win game of the series for Cleveland, and the first for Golden State. This game is what everyone remembers from this series. It was one of the most important and exciting basketball games ever played, and it came right down to the wire, but career-defining plays from LeBron and Kyrie down the stretch gave Cleveland the advantage. They won the game by 4 points, the closest game of the series. LeBron finally brought the trophy to Cleveland. Cleveland took the second of the 3 matchups. This year we'll get to see part 3. The same 2 teams have never been in the finals for 3 years in a row before. The series hasn't even started yet and it's already making history. I'm predicting 2 key differences from last year. On Golden State's end, the difference is obvious. On Cleveland's end, Kevin Love will be more of a factor. He scored 51 points in the series last year, and I'm confident he'll beat that this year, no matter how many games are in the series. In the season, he's been looking very promising, and seems to complement LeBron more than ever. This time, Golden State is so powerful. Kevin Durant made them so good that it may even be unfair. They've yet to lose a single game in the playoffs, but Cleveland has been doing well in the playoffs as well. Even though we've seen this matchup twice before, it's still impossible to predict much about it. Each year has been the same overall, but with major differences. This should be a good series. Both sides have won 1, and this is the tiebreaker. It could be some of the biggest games in basketball, and I couldn't be more excited. Let me know in the comments any thoughts you have on the video or predictions you have for the finals. I'd like to hear what you have to say. Thank you for watching. If you like this video and want to see more in a similar style, be sure to subscribe by clicking the logo so you know when I upload a new one.